They were called incurable. Expensive clinics, endless tests. Nothing worked. The world told the wealthy couple their twins would never hear a lullaby, never say, "I love you." Then she arrived. A quiet woman with calloused hands and a past. No one asked about. She didn't wear a lab coat. She wasn't famous. But on a cold Tuesday morning, she knelt beside them, signed a single word, and something impossible happened. The parents watched in silence. Because what she did wasn't just about healing, it was about being seen. And what came next? It exposed a truth buried beneath privilege, power, and prejudice. What was that? One word? The mansion sat at the top of the hill behind iron gates and silent cameras. Inside, every detail was perfect, except for the 2 small beds in the sunlit room where the twins slept. At 3 years old, they had never heard their names. Doctors called it profound bilateral hearing loss. Their parents, Mark and Elena, had spent over $500,000 chasing solutions. Specialists in Switzerland, experimental therapies, and private speech coaches. Nothing worked. They grieved quietly, behind closed doors, replacing hope with routine. The house ran like a machine. Nannies, therapists, security. No room for error. No room for outsiders. Then came she, Naomi, the new overnight housekeeper, hired last minute after the last one quit, saying the family was too cold. Naomi arrived with a worn suitcase and a calm presence that unsettled the staff. She didn't speak much, but she watched. She noticed how the parents avoided eye contact with the twins during their therapy sessions, how they flinched when the children gestured wildly, what the speech coach called unruly signing. They preferred silence, order, normalcy. Naomi had grown up in a Black deaf community in New Orleans, raised by her deaf grandmother. She knew sign language like breath. But she said nothing. Not at first. She mopped the floors, changed the sheets, and cleaned the bottles. Invisible. Just how wealthy families liked their help. But every night, after the house quieted, she'd sit by the twins' beds, just watching and learning their rhythms, their silent cries, their joy in vibrations, in light, in touch. One morning, the nanny reported Naomi signing with the children. Elena was furious. "We don't encourage that," she said. "We want them to speak." The message was clear. Your world isn't welcome here. But Naomi didn't stop. It started with a vibration. The twins, usually restless during therapy, sat still one evening as Naomi swept near the piano. She paused, then pressed her fingers gently against the wood and played a single low note. The floor trembled. One twin looked up. Then both turned, eyes wide, hands lifting in unison. They didn't hear the sound, but they felt it, and they responded, not with confusion, but recognition. Naomi watched, heart pounding. This wasn't just sensation, it was a connection. The next night she brought a small drum, then a flashlight. She began signing. Not complete sentences, just simple words. Light, beat, mama, safe. The children watched her hands like they were stars in the dark. They mimicked, not perfectly, but with intent. For the first time, someone was speaking their language, without shame, without urgency, to fix them. But the house was watching. The nanny reported it. Elena reviewed security footage. There. She was, Naomi, kneeling on the nursery rug, signing love while the twins touched her hands. "She's undermining everything," Elena snapped. "They need to learn to speak, not wave their hands like savages." The word hung in the air, unchallenged. Mark hesitated, but said nothing. The narrative was already set. Progress meant sounding like everyone else. Still, Naomi continued. Quietly, carefully. She left children's books in ASL on the shelf. She played music with deep bass, allowing the twins to feel the rhythm through the floor. One morning, the therapist stormed in. "They're signing more now," he said. "It's setting them back." Elena demanded that she stop. Naomi nodded, but that night she returned to the room. Only this time, she didn't sing aloud. She signed in the dark, letting the children feel the movement of her hands in silence. Then came the moment no camera caught. The twins had been agitated all day, crying, unsoothed. Nurses tried bottles, lullabies, and white noise to soothe the baby. Nothing worked. Naomi entered, sat beside them, and signed one word slowly, deliberately. Safe. Both children froze. Then one reached out, touched her palm, and nodded. The nanny saw it, told Elena. They understood her, she said, stunned. They knew what she meant. For the first time, doubt cracked the parents' certainty. But instead of awe, fear came first. Who was this woman? Why could she reach their children when no one else could? And why did it feel like the world they'd built, the clinics, the experts, the money, was suddenly irrelevant? The next morning, Elena ordered Naomi's file. "Run a full background check," she told security. "I want to know everything." The system had always protected them. Now it would be used to erase her. Security called her in on a Friday morning. Not to the nursery, to the study. Cold leather chairs. Mark sat stiffly. Elena didn't look up from the file. "We've reviewed your background," she said. "You misrepresented your qualifications. You're not trained in pediatric development. You have no certification in deaf education." Her voice was sharp, rehearsed. The message was clear. You don't belong here. Naomi stood quietly. "I never said I did," she replied. "I only said I could care for them." "But you've been teaching them sign language," Mark interrupted, "against our explicit instructions." "No," she said softly. "I've been talking to them." A silence fell. Elena's pen hovered. Then the intercom buzzed. The nanny's voice, urgent. "You need to come. Now." They found the twins, screaming, unreachable, panicked. A storm had knocked out the power, no lights, no monitors, no familiar sounds to ground them. Nurses tried bottles, rocking, white noise machines. Nothing worked. The children were lost in the dark, terrified in a world they couldn't hear or feel. The parents froze, all their money, all their experts, useless in this moment. Then Naomi stepped forward. She knelt slowly, opened her hands, and signed. Just once, safe. One twin stopped, looked at her, then reached out, trembling, and placed a tiny hand on her chest, feeling the breath, the heartbeat, the truth behind the word. The other followed. They didn't calm down because of the noise. They calmed because they were understood. Elena watched, tears streaming. Not from joy, but from shame. This woman, dismissed as just a cleaner, had done what dozens of specialists could not. Not because of credentials, because of the connection, because she saw the children not as broken, but as whole. And then came the whisper, the word that shattered everything. One twin, eyes locked on Naomi, mouthed it back. Sa. Pa. Not perfect, not loud, but real. In that breath, a lifetime of assumptions collapsed. The experts, the money, the silence. It wasn't the children who were failing to hear the world. It was the world that was failing to hear them. It was the world that had refused to hear them. Naomi wasn't fired, but she didn't stay. A week later, she submitted her resignation. "They need more than one person who sees them," she told, the nanny. "They need a world that stops trying to fix the wrong thing." The family offered double pay, a permanent position, and even a scholarship in her name. She declined. She didn't want recognition. She wanted change. The twins kept signing, and slowly their parents began to learn. Not just the words, but the silence between them, the respect, the history. They discovered a community they'd Ignored, a culture they'd dismissed as a setback. They found black deaf families who had raised children just like theirs, without million-dollar treatments, but with love, language, and belonging. And they realized their wealth hadn't made them right. It had made them blind. Naomi returned to New Orleans to the community center where her grandmother once taught. She started a program for deaf children from marginalized backgrounds, those ignored by the system, labeled unreachable, or pushed into speech-only programs that erased their identity. No press, no cameras, just work. This story isn't about a miracle. It's about what happens when society values credentials over compassion, status over understanding, and whiteness over wisdom. It's about how often the people we overlook, cleaners, caregivers, quiet voices in the back, carry the truths we're too proud to hear. The twins spoke their first word not because of a breakthrough in sound, but because, for the first time, someone listened in the language they knew. How many others are being silenced, not by their condition, but by our refusal to see them clearly? How many Naomis are working in the shadows, healing wounds we don't even admit exist? The real tragedy isn't deafness. It's the willful inability to listen,